Yo, 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 yo! What's up, everybody? We got Ski God here on his 1984 treadmill. We got Rolo up right with the knowledge, and of course we've got Kenny, who is pure anon, pure ass kicker in the bottom right with his Raspberry Blitz Shroom. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show and episode number 4, which is technically in Bitcoin vernacular our 5th show. So go figure.
Good morning.
What's up?
It's a slow start here, boys. It's a slow start. Kelly is still actually in bed. He's got that the laptop kind of up on his chest, I'm sure, because he's just full anon. Rolo, I had to call and make sure he was awake. Blue has been up in the courtrooms for God knows how many hours. And I've just been here putting in the real work, okay? I'm up here supporting the markets for all of you, all right? So you know what? Look, I'll take the load. I'll carry it today. That's fine. But if you're just joining, make sure you guys, if you want to have a chance to win the hat today that we're going to be giving away a Bitcoin Shrooms hat. I think Rolo has it over there. There it is. Classic dad hat. If you guys want a chance, you need to go ahead and share this live video and then just participate in the comments and stuff. And we'll pick somebody either midway through or towards the end of this discussion. Let's get it going.
Super cool hat, though. Nice and embroidered. You got the Bitcoin logo. This one's a winner.
It's a beauty. It's a little banger. We got a nice shroom piece to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, just retweet and repost, whatever you call it now, and post in the show and ask us a ton of questions. So, but Ski God's right. Yeah, I just got out of a small claims court. Someone effed me out of 2 miners, and I won. But when you win, it's not really winning. It's just showing pure stupidity. For the way to win is not to give money to a fucking grifter out of California who claims to sell Bitcoin miners, in which case I had already bought a bunch from Bitmain back in 2017. I don't know why I went through this guy, but he was nice and helpful, and I fell for it, but I won. Now getting the money is going to be the hard part. So yay me, yay small claims court.
But that sweet internal validation, that hard to compare.
He's guilty. I'm innocent. I threw the book at him. He's cringing.
Justice was served.
He's fucked so many people, and he's probably not paid anybody. But we'll see. I got to go after the corporation and not him, which is even harder to get the money. But it's all good. It's all good. And the judge was a rough dude, and then by the end he was somewhat nice. So, but who cares about that? Let's talk about these Bitcoin shrooms. So Rolo, we got a good. We're talking people and big ass events or something today. We're talking cool stuff in the shroom world, right?
Yeah. Good morning, guys. Episode 4 of our series. We got historic events and figures. These are some shrooms we got today. We have 12 of them. We've typically covered 8. We might roll a little faster through a few of them, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got some villains, some heroes, some interesting story arcs, and some cool stories to tell. So we can definitely crack into it. Whenever you want.
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
Cool. Well, we have none other than our first shroom up at the top here. It's a beautiful little guy. This is number 710. What is considered an unidentified fungal object, but we've gathered from our community probably refers to none other than Gavin Bell, or who was legally renamed Gavin Andreessen. So I think it's a beautiful shroom. It's got a nice golden color, clean, symmetric, and symbol of a Bitcoin legend. So market history, it's an interesting one. After it went for OTC, it sold for about 1.3 Bitcoin on Magic Eden. It was about 12 months ago. Subsequently sold for a greater ask of about 2.09 Bitcoin 11 months ago in February of 24. And since that time, I think it got relisted once, market price of 1.5 Bitcoin, which in USD terms, I guess was actually more expensive than February, but somewhere before or after those trades, you guys might know, and please remind me. I believe the Bell Shroom might have been stolen, and there was somebody stole the Liberty Bell. There was one address transfer between I think it was the OTC and the first sale, and then two address transfers after the second sale. So somewhere in that timeline, it might have been boosted.
I think this was one of Dingling's. He got 3.
Was it?
I think he had the chess piece, this one, and one other, but that was early. And that, Kenny, I don't know if you remember, that stirred the big debate, which we had been through in Ordinal Punks like 10 times, that like, oh, it shouldn't be a part of the collection. And I always contend, like, what are you going to do? Remove, like, so by the year 2032, you'll have, you're like, there's one left, and that one, the person lost their keys, but it's not stolen. So you can't, if it gets stolen, you welcome the new person. Like, it sucks for the person that lost it, but like, and I hope it never happens to me, but if it does, it's like, I'm not going to wish ill on the guy who bought it. That's not his problem.
Totally.
That's my problem. So I believe this was a Ding-a-ling stolen one. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Surprisingly, it's pretty amazing. I think we've had 3 or 4 of those events happen, and each time, it's the salient reminder, don't do OTC deals if you really can avoid it. Use the platforms. Just seen too many people get burned, and we'll see which other ones fell.
Dude, there was no platform. I don't, even last year, I don't think he was selling
that early.
He was selling them.
Predate
wasn't he selling them all OTC?
Well, ST was, at the time. So if this happened close to then yes, definitely possible.
I think it was lost due to an impersonation of Rock, I believe.
Rough.
And that's how we lost the bell, the chess piece, and the pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it's worth noting, because I was there live when it was all happening. So basically what they do is in Discord, they'll have a name and they'll just be like, hey, I want to connect with you because I'm in this mutual server, and it's just some random name. Then they'll go dormant for like 9 months, and they'll be like, hey, like with kind of an urgent, like they'll be Rock or whoever, and they'll be like, hey, let's do a broker deal. So I'm going to bring in, Flow Stay or Shroom Toshi or whatever. And you do it really fast, and it's kind of a good deal, and you catch them like when they're tired and off guard. And it worked on a bunch of Ordinal Punks, and it worked on this one too. And this was, I think, one of the biggest early Grail Ordinal drains. Dingling's more of an ETH guy. He's a big Azuki, like spirit holder whale guy. Big collector, smart guy, but I don't honestly, when this got ripped,
we all get burned.
Yeah, and when this got burned, I don't think he came back. I don't think his taste for ordinals was quite so high afterwards.
Could totally understand why that would get soured. That's we've all been there, but yeah. So anyway, we can jump into the lore for this little guy, Gavin Andreessen. So this guy, he was a key figure in Bitcoin's early development, and played a crucial role in its history. He was a software developer, became Bitcoin's lead maintainer after Satoshi stepped away from the project in about 2011, and many consider him as Satoshi's quote unquote chosen successor. Satoshi literally handed over the code repository to him, and that had effectively made him, sort of the de facto leader of the Bitcoin core. And he then later went on to found co-found the Bitcoin Foundation in 2012, and that was, to help promote and fund Bitcoin's development even further. So, guy did a lot for the space, and he also advocated for increasing Bitcoin's block size, believe it or not, to allow for more transactions per block, and that had kind of caused some ideological rifts later on in the community, and that actually led to the Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash fork in 2017, which many of us kind of saw unroll before our very eyes. So, even though he was the subject of a lot more controversy later, he even actually was known to have supported Craig Wright's claim to be Satoshi. He was subsequently removed from Bitcoin Core. It's hard to argue that his influence, and contributions were instrumental in Bitcoin's development. So he still remains a legendary guy, and I think that's therefore why an entire Shroom has been dedicated to this man.
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. And there's 2 good documentaries if anyone's interested to go back and see. He actually comes off like, I think in his early days, he was just a humble dude with a regular size house, a wife. I don't know if he had kids or not, but he was just obsessed with it when Bitcoin wasn't worth much. So I wanted to show, I know you have the picture of him more current when he's more punk rock. He's been through the ringer now, but I think he was just a good dude who became obsessed with this. His wife's like, I don't know, my husband's a freaking wingnut, and just kind of took the whole stuff over. There's two really good documentaries, one in 2014, The Rise of Bitcoin. So it's got Gavin Andresen, the whole thing about Casasius coins, a very young Eric Voorhees is in there. And then the Charlie Schrempf who got the ankle, but like he basically was under house arrest, like all the shit that went down in New York with the Bit license. It's a really good one. And then the other one is called Banking on Bitcoin in 2016. They're both pretty good. And Vitalik this is pre-Ethereum. Vitalik's in there. Because remember, before Ethereum, he was the head writer as a 19-year-old for Bitcoin magazine. So a lot of good stuff in there. But Gavin Andresen's kind of one of the stars of it, and it shows you he was just a humble dude who was just super nerdy about it. So the fact that he went off the rails later is kind of a surprise. But I guess when you have that much Bitcoin, and it keeps going up, and you want 4 meg, SegWit, people are going to come after you.
Man, well, I love that picture. Then if there ever was a choice, of a photo that really depicts that innocence before you get corrupted by crypto, my goodness, that look at that face before and after. I'm sure we have some portrait of him later. But yeah, any thoughts, Ski? Any thoughts, Kenny? And what do you guys think out there in the audience? Do you like this shroom or not? Let us know. Give us a little thumbs up or thumbs down if you're a fan of this piece.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, I think it's a cool little shroom. I haven't researched too much into this guy's background. I know he was involved in one other thing, which I guess we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I think it is quite a cool shroom, but it isn't my favorite. I'd say I wouldn't put it in my top 20. Although I kind of do think it has that cute hat vibe as well with it. It's not just the bell on the head. It looks kind of like a old school hat, which I think is quite cool. So I think it's a cool shroom, but yeah, not my top ones.
Fair enough. Yeah, good golden color, nice and symmetric. I'm a fan. So as we casually slide on over, we've got our next little guy here. This is number 702, ordinal inscription 702 Bitcoin faucet. I think this one's absolutely iconic. I love this design. I think it somehow manages to be a really clean design, even while not needing to be that symmetric. It's got a great classic Bitcoin colorway with the orange, the blacks, the whites, the grays. I seem to have noticed that the market kind of places a premium on shrooms that deploy that classic Bitcoin colorway and the logo. We've got some good examples of that. The beautiful Bitcoin.org shroom sold for 2.42 Bitcoin about 9 months ago, and the orange Reddit Bitcoin shroom went for 2.9, also about 9 months ago. So this shroom, I've never seen it listed, as have other legendary ones like the pure Bitcoin logo shroom. They're classic Bitcoin shrooms and evidently quite desirable to have. And I'm pretty sure if this ever listed, I'd be an immediate bidder. But faucet shroom is no less so. And I think given Bitcoin faucet's legendary role in Bitcoin history, it's even more of a legend. So what do you guys think of this one?
I love it.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like this one a lot. He somehow made a weirdly non-symmetric shroom somewhat feels symmetric in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the orange just pops, and I just feel like it when you see this shroom, it evokes an emotion of what the fuck, you could get Bitcoin for free and now they're worth 100K. It makes you feel stupid, it really gives you the you might think you're early,
Yeah.
but you're not type of vibe. And it's one of those shrooms where I feel if you don't see it listed, I just don't really see it being listed. And that's one of the things we talk about this privately, but there's what, 30, how many shrooms are listed right now? Like 30 or 35 or something. And
Might even be
I
less
kind
than
of
that.
feel like once there's a spree of like 10 to 15 of these shrooms getting bought, I think it basically will like step function reprice this asset. And I don't think we'll see more than like, 15 or 20 of these things listed ever. And I don't think just because price goes up, we're going to see a lot of these just all of a sudden pop up for sale. So I think it's a good example of one that somebody just loves and is just keeping and probably just has a bunch of money and doesn't give a shit. So love the shroom.
For sure. Kenny, what do you think about this little guy?
Yeah, I mean the history is so rich for this shroom. It's a really awesome one. I think I really like the point that Ski pointed out as well. Even though it's so uneven and unsymmetrical, it still looks really, really clean and really good. I do like this shroom a lot. I think the orange is really nice on it, and yeah, the tap even looks good. I mean, sometimes I feel like how difficult these things from like a creative standpoint, because I mean, a tap is like such a simple thing, but it can be hard to like make it look like a real tap, right? So I think this is a great one.
For sure. I think it's underrated, how hard it is sometimes to move pixels and place them in a way that really conveys art when you have so little to work with, especially with 8-bit art. It doesn't go unnoticed. ST did some great things with the pixel design here. And I agree, man. I really love that piece. But take you guys through some fun lore with this one. The Shrimtoshi left descriptions for each of the shrooms, and this one inscribed said, "Munificent faucet that back in 2010 used to bestow arbitrary amounts of Bitcoin to whomever requested it. Regrettably, it doesn't do that anymore." And then he left a nice little link to a Reddit post from the original posting about the Bitcoin faucet. And it was from none other than Gavin Andreessen as a nice little tie-in. And the post, I'll just take you through a couple quotes to take you on a little walk down memory lane. It may sound shocking now, but in 2010, it was a reality. The creator of website freebitcoins.appspot.com, where user could collect free Bitcoins, is Gavin Andreessen. The website is not working anymore. Each of users received 5 Bitcoins per day just by solving a CAPTCHA. The purpose of this game was to promote cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin itself. Looks like the purpose got fulfilled. To fuel the first faucet, Andreessen loaded it with 1,100 Bitcoin of his own. After these were given away, the faucet was reloaded, with early Bitcoin miners and whales also donating coins. Andreessen said that Bitcoins are a new kind of money, and that they aren't created or controlled by a government like USD or euros. They're created and controlled by anybody who wants to be part of the Bitcoin payment network. So ultimately, the faucet managed to give away to people 19,700 Bitcoins, which at the time of the post was worth $1,171,852,000 US dollars. Pretty cool. So I find it just to be an amazing part of Bitcoin history. It's crazy to think that back then you could have just logged on, solved a little puzzle piece on your browser, and potentially scored yourself a bag of millions. But you don't see that too much in the history of the internet. So one last little thing, Andreessen was quoted as saying, "Why did I do it? Because I want the Bitcoin project to succeed. And I think it is more likely to be a success if people can get a handful of coins to try it out. It can be frustrating to wait until your node generates some coins, and that will get more frustrating in the future. And buying Bitcoin is still a little bit clunky." So I think, like you said, Blue, that the guy's head was clearly in the right place, and he really had his heart and soul into Bitcoin. The guy was all in, and he really, he put his skin in the game and really tried to get people involved, and I respect him for that. So very cool piece.
Yeah, we actually have a fellow Shroomie, I won't mention who it is, who used to draw from the spigot. So there's there's a lot you forget with Bitcoin shrooms. Like, I know the market,
some good tap water.
Yeah, I know the market's tanking, and Bitcoin's the one that's kind of at least somewhat holding, right? But and what do we just have, a zero 0.7 Bitcoin Shroom? And I know a lot of people on the timeline were bummed about it, but things are going to go up and things are going to go down because they haven't been recognized. They're like, our thesis is they're going to be recognized as not only like CryptoPunks, but really the aliens, maybe the aliens and the monkeys, right? The top of the CryptoPunk food chain. And I think it's a pretty strong thesis. So when I look at people panicking, to me, it just seems like if someone wants another one, there's another buy signal, but maybe that's just me.
Totally. Not to mention, I don't think it's difficult to argue. Maybe not everyone's favorite shroom. It was sitting at the floor for a little bit, and people like what they like, but totally agree. Sign of the times, and we're going through some rough seas out there in the market right now. But anything can turn at the blink of an eye. So, with that said, our next room is a very, very fun one, for more than one reason. We've got none other than ordinal inscription number 676, which is titled "Not Satoshi" with 3 exclamations on either side. This one, again, as I said, just an absolutely legendary shroom on so many levels. I think just purely from aesthetics, it's such a unique piece. The symmetry and cleanliness don't really even have a role here. Instead, I think the name of the game is just iconic caricature, and the design, I think it's frankly hilarious. It actually does an amazing job of conveying the essence of Dorian Nakamoto and the way he probably felt after being publicly harassed and persecuted for years, for potentially being the individual behind the Satoshi Nakamoto handle. So, what do you guys think of this little guy?
Yeah, it really goes off the infamous picture, which we'll pull up in a second. I don't know, he took it very well. I mean, the dude was like,
remarkably.
Yeah, he was literally outed by, I can't remember which media publication it was. I'm sure you'll get in the lore in a second, but he was like, he's just some engineer dude. And Satoshi Nakamoto, obviously the guy is of Asian descent, and it just one together, and he got completely followed everywhere. And when in the interviews, he just seems like the most like, well, it's not me. It seems interesting, but okay. Like, he's just so like, just
very unassuming,
happy-go-lucky guy. Maybe that makes it even better. But I like this one. It's certainly not aesthetic, but it obviously works because not having Dorian Nakamoto in the collection would be, you couldn't do it without him, because his face, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately for him, is almost the
plastic
number one meme face of Bitcoin.
Yeah, and we'll certainly go into that. Ski and Kenny, what do you guys think about this little guy?
I just think it's great because it just seems like hard to recreate that head, but he somehow nailed it. So I just imagine him like creating this one in his room, just sitting there clicking around in pixels, trying to kind of figure it out. And the expression's great, just like God damn it, like, what is happening to me right now type of face. And great shroom. Definitely think it's for another. A lot of these seem to be shrooms meant for OG guys, So I hope this one is sitting with somebody who's a bit OG. But you guys know who has this one, I think, right?
We do.
Yeah.
So
6529.
It is none other.
So I don't know that is he really like a Bitcoin OG? I don't really know, or is he just more like the 2017 or 2021 NFT hype guy?
He really cut his teeth in the Ethereum digital art space, and is known for being an absolutely massive ETH NFT collector, and he has a stable of some of the greatest, most grail pieces in that eco. Right. And I believe, he's even made some public posts, talking about that, as well as sort of sharing some sentiments on ordinals. I believe he's an ordinal bull, but he obviously acknowledges that there's some progress to be made, given it's fairly newer. But he obviously owns Shrooms, and I think that's a statement right in and of itself. But Yeah, this is none other than Punk 6529's piece, and sits in a stable uh, next to the legendary Proto Shroom number 51, the Coming Shroom. So he owns not one but two Bitcoin shrooms, and I think that was just a huge affirmation of how legitimate the shrooms are, including their relevance in fine digital art. In terms of a market signal, to me, that was a huge stamp of approval, because this guy, maybe some of you do or don't know, he's a huge advocate for digital art in the space. He's working, to set up digital art institutions and museums, and is working with his head down currently on a not too talked about project. I'm told he's in head down mode after talking, with some of his associates, and the guy's just a legend when it comes to the Ethereum space. So having him own two of those, to me, is just, again, signal that he obviously saw something in this collection, and there was something that connected with him, and I would love to talk to him about why these two pieces in particular, but obviously neither of them have ever been listed. And yeah, after I acquired my first two shrooms in the main 212 catalog, I knew in my heart that I wanted a proto shroom, and I reached out to Shroomtoshi and asked if he was selling one. Um, and it was none other than Punk 6529 that kind of swooped right in there and grabbed the one that I had my heart set on. So I was heartbroken, but totally happy for the guy, and really, I think it was a great choice. So yeah,
I think it's cool too, because we've got, we know the active collector groups, the four of us and the people we hang with in our chats, and Saxon and all the people we've met. But there's some big, including KC and 6529. There's some big grail holders of shrooms. So it's not. That's why I'm not worried about the price so much. There's only 210 Bitcoin shrooms, and then 12 proto shrooms. So there's the supply. The supply is low. We're good.
Yeah. It's a great collection that, again, as we've said, many times, speaks abundantly for itself. So now for a little lore dive on our namesake. Who, with that preamble, was Dori Nakamoto? So he actually was a retired Japanese-American engineer and physicist who was mistakenly, as we kind of mentioned, identified as Satoshi in a 2014 Newsweek article by journalist Leah Goodman. And his connection to Bitcoin was said to be purely coincidental, but the circus affair basically made him a major figure in Bitcoin's pop culture, whether he wanted that to be or not. And after that happened, reporters swarmed his home in California, and his privacy and quietude was completely demolished. And there were many Bitcoin sympathizers who even felt he was so unfairly harassed, they should send him Bitcoin. And he, at the time of market price, I think he received something like 275K just in donations. So I guess it's not all bad. But what this ultimately evolved into was Dorian's face appearing in all sorts of crypto memes, especially in Bitcoin circles, and many still jokingly call him the real Satoshi even after all of that was debunked. And one quintessential example is the Ethereum, or you could say counterparty-based Nakamoto card from the rare Pepe collection. It's now selling for multiple six-figure amounts, and just a legendary piece with his namesake on there. So I read through Leah Goodman's Newsweek article, actually. It was an expose piece, and I have to say, at face value, knowing nothing else besides what was presented, it is, at a very minimum, a thought-provoking piece. I'll just share some brief excerpts from it. Dori Nakamoto's brother was interviewed and was quoted as saying, "You want to know about my amazing physicist brother?" says Arthur Nakamoto. "He's a brilliant man. I'm just a humble engineer. He's very focused and eclectic in his way of thinking. Smart, intelligent, mathematics, engineering, computers, you name it, he can do it. But he also had a warning. My brother is an asshole. What you don't know about him is that he's worked on classified stuff. His life was a complete blank for a long time. You're not going to be able to get to him. He'll deny everything, and he'll never admit to starting Bitcoin. So that's that was interesting. If nothing else, there were also some very historically valuable excerpts from discussions with Gavin as well, which I think did shed some light on what interacting with Satoshi was like. So Gavin was quoted as saying, he was the kind of person who, if you made an honest mistake, he might even call you an idiot and never speak to you again. Back then, it was not clear that creating Bitcoin might be a legal thing to do, and he went to great lengths to protect his anonymity. Nakamoto also ignored all of Andreessen's questions about where he was from, his professional background, and what other projects he'd worked on, and whether his name was a real name or a pseudonym. He was never chatty, Andreessen says. All he talked about was code. Communication with Bitcoin's founder was becoming less frequent by early 2011. Nakamoto stopped posting changes to the Bitcoin code and ignored conversations on the Bitcoin forum. Andreessen was unprepared, however, for Satoshi Nakamoto's reaction to an email exchange in April 2011, where he said, "I wish you wouldn't keep talking about me as a mysterious, shadowy figure. The press just turns that into a pirate currency angle. Maybe instead make it about the open source project and give more credit to your dev contributors." So ultimately, I think the question many people want to know is, how was it proven that Dorian was not actually Satoshi? Because that could be a difficult thing. For one, Satoshi's PGP key message, the real Satoshi's known online accounts were briefly reactivated to post a message, "I am not Dorian Nakamoto," not necessarily proof in and of itself. For two, Dorian was said to have lacked a lot of technical knowledge on Bitcoin's technical aspects, although arguably someone could be, spoofing that. Community scrutiny, Bitcoin enthusiasts and cryptographers found no real evidence linking him. Again, not super strong. And then maybe the weakest reason, which is that Dorian said he never heard of Bitcoin before the Newsweek article. So you guys decide for yourself. Ultimately, as we've argued before, it doesn't really matter.
He's definitely not Satoshi, because remember the message that Satoshi himself did, what used his whatever that account was, he had the encrypted key to that account to prove it was him who was signing the hash. So Dorian's definitely not it. Here's an interesting little factoid, though. Dorian Nakamoto lived just blocks from Hal Finney in California. So one could speculate in a phone book, be like, oh, here's a good name, Satoshi Nakamoto. So that was kind of one theory. The fact that they lived so close together was definitely a nod in Hal Finney's direction.
Yeah, no matter what, lot of interesting points and coincidences. So it's a fun story, and we're sorry, Dorian, but hopefully you're doing all right now.
Sounds like your brother's not sorry though.
Right.
All right. Moving on. So this is our first unidentified one, right? This is our first where we actually just have to guess and have no idea, no reference, nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. First truly unidentified. All of these unidentified fungal objects so far we've been able to piece together. With this guy, we don't exactly have the real story, but many have said, we were chatting in the group yesterday, just talking about what this piece could mean. And some simply pointed out it could be far more simple and obvious than overthinking it. Just the option to opt out and rage quit. And I believe it was actually Short the Dollar who did make an interesting point, and really appreciate it. There was a post by Mike Hearn that he posted a link to. I believe it quoted him as rage quitting Bitcoin out at $340 or something like that, and then someone made some dunk post later on when it was well above that. So this may have been a little cheeky jab at Mike Hearn rage quitting Bitcoin prematurely, but it's hard to know. And the topic of today is historical figures in protocol history. Mike Hearn, he was a pretty well known guy in the space. So without knowing for sure, that is one theory. But I think it's fun to kind of not know for one of these. What do you guys think?
Well, here's my theory. I'll make sure I pull the right one up here. Nope, wrong one. I think it's as simple as the meme, like, get like you're trapped on the highway and Bitcoin is your first exit to inflationary money. Like, and you can't do much with like 8 pixel art. So you just do disgruntled guy and then like off ramp or go through green door arrow. I could be totally wrong, and maybe this meme came after, but to me it seems like it fits anyway with the narrative.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Shrimtoshi, if you're out there, give us a little helping hand. Drop a comment. Anything a little help will always be appreciated.
That's what I thought with this shroom, is like it was rage quitting like the system. Could be way off there, but just like got so sick and fed up with the fiat system or whatever, that you're just going to rage quit and come over to Bitcoin. But I don't know if that really aligns with like Shroomtoshi's kind of theme here, but I just like interpreting it that way.
Feels trolly to me. It feels really trolly.
I think what kind of helps here is also the category, right? I mean, we've spoken about loose categories beforehand, that the shrooms kind of follow a certain theme. And as we kind of introduced today, this is most likely all about historic events. Of course, these themes are identified by us, not by Shroomtoshi. At least most of them aren't. But I think that kind of gives a good boundary around what it could be. And then I do feel like the whole thing that Rich was saying about that guy rage quitting Bitcoin kind of does align with that.
It's a nice little fit, and I think that's a great point, Kenny. That this one is squarely placed within the historical events and figures category. So in my mind, something that happened or something that someone said is probably a likely reference or fit. But I love the mystery. I love the not knowing. So yeah, thanks for helping out all you shrooms in the community.
Okay, moving on. All right, here's an aesthetically nice one.
Oh, yeah, I love this one. We're actually switching gears, and our thematic category we've outlined is now transitioning over to protocol history. So major protocol updates and controversies. And with that, our first piece is none other than ordinal number 683, which is called SegWit. It's one of what I consider 23 uncommon shrooms. Uses a different color and design for the shroom face, which personally love. Really cool aesthetic with this shroom being designed as an incandescent light bulb. You can see the little tungsten filament in the middle. I think it's super clean. Really love the colorway. Nice gray and yellow combination there. I'm a big fan. What about the rest of you guys?
What do you think, Kenny? You like it?
Beautiful shroom. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. It's like the problem of having a light bulb is like perfectly solved. I feel like in this shroom could have been done better.
Totally. And for any of you guys out there watching, again, we're going to be doing our little giveaway at the end here. Give us a thumbs up or down. Let us know what you think. We'd love to know what a lot of you think about these shrooms. And always fun to get you guys involved. So with that said, there's some history under the hood with this one. So we'll do a little lore time here. The quote for this shroom that Shroomtoshi left behind says, "People say that the most brilliant ideas are often the simplest to explain. So I tried to explain SegWit to my granny. She ended up chasing me with a rolling pin." And then he left a link to bitcoin.wiki, which explains segregated witness. So just in a nutshell, SegWit, it stands for segregated witness. It's a technology and a protocol update. It was a major protocol update that occurred in August of 2017, and it had some really interesting history to it because it was actually blocked by miners for political reasons, not once, but twice in 16 and 17, through the exploit of a flaw in the activation mechanism. So what I thought was particularly cool was ultimately the economic majority of Bitcoin holders found a way to coordinate and bypass the miners by implementing a user-activated soft fork. It was called BIP 148, where they activated it on their own. So anyway, what exactly is it? It was an upgrade that was designed to provide protection against transaction malleability. So, and also increase the block capacity within the constraint of about a 4 megabyte block size. So at the highest level, what it does, it separates the witness of a transaction who's signing or the entity verifying them from the list of specific inputs that go into the transaction. And the witness would only essentially have the necessary cryptographic data needed to check transaction validity, but they have no knowledge of the input or the output or what the transaction would ultimately amount to. And then finally, there was a change in the weighting units of how data was actually handled to make the blocks more space efficient. So it's actually really significant on a technical level because previously it was hard-coded that Bitcoin had to be 1 megabyte block size, hard stop. And by instituting that weighting, it allowed for sort of a dynamic theoretical maximum that really practically goes up to about 2 to 3 megabytes. But that's quite a boost in transaction throughput. One key historical fact that the protocol change ultimately did was it allowed the Lightning Network to deploy safely onto the Bitcoin network. So I think it's directly related to the symbolic nature of the Shroom design, the powered-on light bulb, perhaps likely signifying the dawn of the Lightning Network. And so I think this is where the rubber meets the road. At piecing these kind of legendary Bitcoin factoids together, realizing Shroomtoshi Shrooms have been sneakily hinting at all of it in beautifully symbolic ways this whole time. So I don't know. I just love this kind of shit. I know it's a little nerdy, but he really understood what was at stake here and what happened, and put that into these pieces. So that's
and SegWit was
SegWit.
a nice precursor to ordinals, right? So you went to 4 megs and then you made
Right.
witness data. You made it a lot easier. So you separated your signature witness data from your actual transactions. And at first, that still didn't mean much until they loosened restrictions even more in 21 with Taproot. But SegWit was the precursor to cool shit happening, and Luke Dash Jr. Turning over. I was gonna say in his grave, but he's not dead yet. He's just angry. Even by the way, Ocean Mining, they mine the transactions now, which I love because of course they would. It's profitable. Like if you don't, like you make no money. Have fun with it. Have fun staying poor.
All about the game incentives.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we got a ton of SegWit ones here. Should we tell the story of SegWit kind of over the course of these, or is there more to add to this one?
The next one kind of just rolls right into it beautifully, which is great. So we've got a nice, beautiful look here, talking about unique shrooms. I've been a big fan of this design for a long time. So this is number 864 SegWit 2X. To me, it's just the right kind of Halloween spooky for me. It's my favorite holiday of the year. What looks like a pixelated tombstone with some sort of green slime or zombie goo dripping all over it. I love this thing. I think the colorway is attractive, manages to be easy on the eyes, and I would own this little guy. But I think it's even listed
through a
on the
Playboy,
market.
and she's easy on the eyes. Like, okay,
it's a looker. But it might even be for sale now. I may have seen this little guy listed on Magic
look.
Eden, but yeah. But while you're doing that, what do you guys think? Do you like this one? Hate it?
I'm not a huge fan of it just because it doesn't scream like it just doesn't like tell me a story if you don't really know the technicality behind it. And it's like kind of like it's kind of negative to me in a weird way. So like I don't know, like I kind of like the positive, kind of like the bubble. Like it's like bright and cheery and kind of like it's obvious what it is. And I don't mind certain ones that have like super technical meaning, but I at least want it to be like aesthetically pleasing too. This one's a little tough for me to like imagine as just rocking as my PFP or something. So again, I think I would want to be more of a technical Bitcoiner to really like this one, which kind of goes along with the theme here.
What do you think,
Kenny, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely a bit more of a difficult one to rock as a PFP. I still do kind of like it just because it gives a different spin of the shroom shape. There's something a bit different about this one. Of course,
Yeah.
like the background story, I think it is quite cool. I do like this one
Yes.
more than a couple of the others, but also, I guess, not my favorite.
For sure. Yeah, I would not consider this a floor. I think it's very cool. We've all got different takes on it. There's different levels of fan in here, but yeah. What do you guys think? Let us know out there. And with that said, the story behind this little guy is interesting. Shroomtoshi's description for the shroom said, Bitcoin and hostile corporate takeovers aren't exactly a fruitful combination for hostile corporate takeovers mostly. And then inscribed a little link there to the Bitcoin wiki behind SegWit2x. So again, I love the story behind this one. The shroom is all about the death of a coordinated corporate takeover effort, hence the gravestone. And SegWit2x was essentially the name of this coordinated protocol update that died and was buried 6 feet under. And what this protocol update tried to do was literally double the hard cap on the Bitcoin block size to 2 megabytes. And essentially, this newer version of SegWit was brewed up by a consortium of about 50 plus large private Bitcoin companies who were participants of something called the New York Agreement, or what was otherwise called the Bitcoin Scaling Agreement of Consensus 2017. And it was extremely unpopular and controversial for several reasons. And number one, it failed to gain any real consensus by the community and the core developers. It was entirely an idea that was pushed by a small group of companies. So you could argue it was destined for failure, since that's really just not the Bitcoin ethos. And number two, core developers hated it because it was actually introducing some real security flaws. And firstly, it was a hard fork, not a soft fork. And so, a soft fork, while it can be reverted and doesn't necessarily require everyone to run it, but rather opt in, a hard fork is irreversible and would actually really truly split the network into 2 chains. And that creates market confusion, for one, and related security concerns with that. But besides that, it also lacked a provision called replay protection, meaning that transactions could actually be broadcasted on both hard fork chains, which is problematic. Users could accidentally basically send funds on both chains without even intending to. So for 3, the upgrade was rushed. It lacked any adequate developer review or testing compared to the original SegWit. So the thing was just destined for the grave. And luckily, that's where it is. It was pronounced dead on November 8th, 2017, in a joint statement by multiple of the corporate proponents, who said, quote, "Unfortunately, it is clear that we have not built sufficient consensus for a clean block size upgrade at this time. Continuing on the current path would divide the community and be a setback to Bitcoin's growth. Signed, Mike Belch, Wences Caceres, Jihan Wu, Jeff Garzik, Peter Smith, and, interestingly, Eric Voorhees." So you actually cannot find that direct link to the article on Linux Foundation, but lucky for us, the good people at bitcointalk.org archived the public statement. And, who knows why the article was taken down, but keep them honest out there, Bitcoiners. We love to see it. I think this is a very cool story, but yeah, any other comments?
Yeah, it was a big deal for Bitcoin. I mean, it showed that that the people, and it wasn't just it couldn't be controlled by the miners. I believe Jihan Wu is the Bitmain guy, which, I mean, they still dominate hash rate with their miners. I know there's a bunch catching up and there's more competition out there, but they just, I got my miners and whatever 2016, 2017 from them, and everybody did. And you actually, interestingly, back then you had to convert your Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash which was the hard fork that was supported by some of these guys. Roger Ver, who just got screwed by the U.S. government because he left, and now they're claiming he owes all the U.S. whatever billions he has in Bitcoin and taxes. But it was a big fight, and people like me benefited from the fight, ironically, because not only did the people win, but I got Bitcoin Cash. And as soon as I knew, I waited because I wasn't that savvy yet, and I didn't now we know if you get an airdrop, sell it. If you really want to get back in 3 weeks, get back in, but you're not going to. What airdrop has done better? They're out there, but there's not. ENS actually did well over the years, but there's few exceptions. I just got the Venice AI airdrop, and I cashed in, and of course Coinbase screwed me, and it failed. I don't know how you fail on a base transaction, but I did it the next morning. Still got a good price, but anyway, so it's interesting. Yeah, Eric Voorhees is on there. A lot of these guys, and they had their reasons, but this shows that the small guy and the core developers had a lot of power, and the core developers, I think, educated the masses where it was pretty clear that folks like me who just liked Bitcoin were to not like this or adopt it. But it was an interesting part of our history for sure.
Totally, and I'm as you said, I think it's a really important story to tell too, because I don't know if everyone out there who owns or uses Bitcoin really realizes this is a great way to highlight that this is one of those rare situations where the little guys can actually win and show out in strength. And we'll see that as we roll into this next shroom here. But grassroots decentralization, this is where the rubber meets the road, and it's really cool to see that has actually played out, in real life. And with that said, shroom number 693, Shaolin Fry. This is perhaps one of my favorite shrooms in existence.
I feel like you have a top 30 list that has 200 in it. Now this is top 30. Be like, I feel like you're at 30
my shroom list
already.
is actually all too tad. Yeah, it's right. We'll pull that one out soon. But yeah, I think it's a striking, if not very weird design. I think I like it so much because, again, it just really departs from the traditional shroom aesthetic, and it's definitely one of the strangest shrooms, like I've said out there. I think that's another reason, people find it kind of controversial, but keeping in mind it's called Shaolin Fry, you've got a Shaolin monk that's sitting inside a frying basket with a little shroom face that's hidden on the monk's lap, and the monk itself is faceless. Some interesting history behind it. Sold for about 1.05 Bitcoin. I think it was about 7 months ago on none other than 4th of July. But something fairly weird's been going on with it. It's been transferring wallets. It has transferred wallets over 30 times in the last 7 months, moving hands multiple times every single month since the last sale, about as recently as 14 days ago. So I'm not sure what that is about, but just found it kind of curious. And it's one of 4 shrooms that again, like I mentioned, depart from the normal aesthetic. There are a few others, A16Z shroom being one of them, and I believe Hal Finney. They take on a more humanistic form rather than shroom. And I raised a question, are these considered uncommon shrooms like the other 23? It's an interesting little bunch here, but what are our thoughts on this guy? No,
my vote's this one's okay. I wouldn't buy a frying basket one. I didn't even realize it was a blank faced guy with the head down. I thought it was a guy stuffed in like a torture cage where he's all bent forward, and now I'm like,
does give that vibe.
You're right. There's the head in the back, the monk, and so now I see it, which I think I like it more now, but I don't know. And my answer to your question was whether I like this or not is irrelevant, but I think there's no less common shrooms than others. To me, when you have such a small collection, I actually think the ones that follow the face are, to me personally, because it's such a small collection, those carry more weight with me personally.
Fair. How about you guys?
I think it's
Go ahead,
cool.
Ski.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I like how it's faceless, which I assume was intentional, like that this um whole movement is faceless and anonymous in a way, and kind of saying fuck you to the establishment. So I love how that's the case, and then the shroom is just like the eyes are that like kind of where the hands are curled over or whatever. So big fan, like great play on words. You just got to be the certain type of person who wants to rock this thing, and Rolo, it makes sense for you. You're just that kind of
Just the right
guy.
amount of
So
weird.
Well,
Yeah.
it's top 30 for
just
sure.
the right amount of weird. That's a perfect way to put it. Overall, though, fun shroom. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think?
Yeah,
How
I
about
can
you,
only
Kenny?
echo. I like this one as well. Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's a cool play onto like a figure who probably doesn't get attention, like in the mainstream Bitcoin kind of CT era. But yeah, I think this is cool. I think obviously it's really difficult to solve something like this as a visual. So I think he did a good job with this one, even though I do kind of prefer when they actually have the real shroom face. I always do like that one.
Yeah,
Totally.
well said.
Yeah. That's a good point. Technically a little difficult to achieve the play on words here, but that ties us into the lore behind this little guy. Shroomtoshi's description for the shroom said, "But if there's one thing that Bitcoin goes hand in hand with, it's weird internet dudes standing up to hostile corporate takeovers in the name of self-sovereignty." And then inscribed a link on Reddit to the original post from the anonymous user, Shaolin Fry, the author of the recent user-activated fork proposal. So again, there's some heavy symbolism going on with the shroom design, and here are some interesting historical facts that I think are relevant to it. Shaolin monks, they come from the famous and historically significant Buddhist monasteries in China that date all the way back to 495 AD. And they're literally the famous ones, for the origin of kung fu martial arts, and the practice of extreme discipline and philosophical teachings, basically as a way of life. I think it's also very well known through modern history that Shaolin monks have a reputation for self-immolation, for better or worse, as a form of protest. And to date, over 150 Tibetan monks have burned themselves to death in public protest since 2009.
So the pro sides of meditation, enlightenment. The downside is you may be asked to burn yourself to death in front of a big crowd
Right.
in New York City. But there's pros and cons to everything.
Pros and cons, yeah. But I think you can now, maybe see the clear symbolic nature of a Shaolin monk sitting inside a deep frying cage, probably referring to self-sacrifice. So I thought it was a really creative way for Shroomtoshi to make a tongue-in-cheek reference to the person that the shroom was dedicated to, who called themselves Shaolin Fry. And so who was this person? They were an anonymous Bitcoin coder. They were responsible, again, for authorizing modifications to Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 9, which allowed for the user-activated soft fork. And what that meant was that Bitcoin users, including nodes or the economic majority of holders, could implement a soft fork update and actually override Bitcoin miners. And the term you might hear of today, UASF, or user activated soft fork, is largely thanks to this anonymous guy, Shaolin Fry. And this all took place around the SegWit activation debate in 2017, so it directly ties into the previous rooms we just talked about. And the implication of enabling that UASF is that balance of decentralization was restored to the protocol, with better representation of all of the game theory participants who are using it. And so I just think it really ties in beautifully to how one small individual can again stand up to a large industry of corporations and affect actual change, and hence the beautiful grassroots symbolism behind this Shaolin monk shroom. So I think it's a really cool story to tell, and it's actually pretty important that it happened. But that's the story behind this little guy. So if you'd like, we can do our next piece, which ties directly in. It's a pretty quick story here, but number 861 is UASF.
Rolo, by the way, can I just jump in real
Please.
quick and say that I think it's cool how like you can burn stuff, right? Like you can sacrifice things and you could burn Bitcoin, you could burn NFTs, you could burn whatever you want as a show of some sort of show, right? So I think it kind of ties nicely into the Shaolin Fry thing with the ability to just send things to the incinerator to say fuck you, you know?
Send it to Satoshi's
that
wallet.
option is always there. Yeah. No, I love that. But yeah, that'll tie in directly to this little guy, UASF.
All right, this is our buddy. This one's exciting.
Yeah.
This is Saxon.
Yeah, we've got a nice little community shroom here. None other than the legendary Saxon. Gem of a guy, laid back dude, and I think the shroom really fits. And also a really interesting shroom member, in the diversity department as an action stuntman. I just think that's crazy cool. I wouldn't know an action stuntman if it weren't for Shrooms bringing us all together. But I think it's a cool piece. I love the sideways cap. I like the gray. You got a Bitcoin colorway with the orange and black. A lot of people actually end up mistaking this one for the USAF or United States Air Force symbol, making a lot of people think it's a military shroom. But we'll get to that. But what do we think of this guy?
I just can't look at this and not think of Saxon. Obviously, the message is great when you get to the lore, but I love it. I mean, and we got to throw a plug to Saxon. I met him in Nashville, and then we got to hang out with him for a bunch of Miami. And he's the type of dude that's so awesome. He'll be like, "Guys, where are you?" And we'll be like, "We're in this roof." And he'll be like, "Okay, cool. I'll be there in an hour." We'll be like, "Okay, sweet." The guy will literally like drive 4 hours, hang out for an hour, and then like drive home. He's just always there. Great dude, always up for hanging. And just like whenever he's around, like it's just like you're like, okay, cool. Like he's such a calming, like, presence in any group, but huge fan. But I love this one. I love this one. I love the hat. I love that it's got the standard shroom. I think it's tough to pull off a hat here, but yet they do it, and the message is great. So what do you think, Kenny?
Yeah, I think this is a really cool one as well. Unfortunately, I've only had the pleasure to talk to Saxon on the internet, but I'm definitely looking forward to meet him. He's been a great shroom for a long time.
Yeah.
I think this is a really important shroom if we look at the whole Bitcoin history and kind of empowering node holders against the economic incentives for miners. So this one's a really cool one. I love it. Bit more on the basic side, but I like it on this one. I think this is really clean. It's a really cool shroom.
Yeah.
What do you guys think is the main reason for like the sideways hat? Is it just because it's like forked off or something? Is that what we're doing here? And then the little like orange pixels, is that for nodes or like what's going on there?
That image right there, you got the little Bitcoin logo on the side of the hat. What's interesting is they're actually, this is based off a real hat, which Samson Mao, I believe, popularized. So I think you got some symbolism going on there, and probably an easy way to pull off the classic shroom form, but also putting like a hat bill in there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I love it. I love this hat. I love the whole thing about it. I think putting it sideways, I'm guessing with 8-bit, that probably was just easier to do. It's probably harder to show a brim with like 4 or 5 pixels in the front. It probably looked stupid. So he was like, put it off to the side. And I think it worked. I don't know if that was intentional for a message, but maybe it was.
I guess that makes sense. It might just not scream hat if it wasn't showing the brim, right? So okay, I think that plays.
So we'll sort of get to that. The description kind of ties in. Shrimtoshi said for this one. The ninth rule in Bitcoin, it's the individual that makes the rules, and sick hats too. Hashtag at Exilion. And it's kind of a fun little investigation or workup that I couldn't find any account under Exilion. Thanks to modern technology, ChatGPT helped us uncover that Exilion used to be the Twitter handle of Samson Mow, who is a well-known Bitcoin advocate, and actually Blockstream's former CSO. And he was the guy who I think first popularized wearing this UASF hat, which actually looks like a military hat. I think it kind of is a riff on U.S. Air Force in being a bit militaristic. And you can actually still buy it on cypherpunk.store's website. There's 23 left in stock, so act quickly. But it basically rallied people together and was a symbol of empowerment to Bitcoin users, that if you want to take over, you can actually do it. So it's a pretty cool shroom in that regard.
Yeah, and hats off to the fact that these user activated soft forks even exist. I mean, it's made it for the Bitcoin more for the people. So all these teeny little decisions that you think are not that important in the big grand scheme of things makes it a lot easier, and you got Larry Fink, you got BlackRock, and these huge companies just hoovering, and Saylor, you got them hoovering Bitcoin like we're aligned now for NGU technology, but in the long run, maybe another hard fork will be necessary one day. I hope not, but it's possible.
I think you bring up a great point, which is that the stage is so different now, and you really do wonder what would happen when there was any sort of coordinated corporate effort from these largest institutions in the world to kind of affect change on Bitcoin. This is a story that's important to tell and remember, because when it comes down to it, will we be able to kind of tell them how we feel about it and take the network in its most decentralized form? This is a good story to look back to and refer to as far as what can or can't be done. So with that said, we have an interesting pair coming up. Our first Shroom twin pair. I thought it would be more convenient to do these two at the same time, grouped together as ordinal number 870 and number 701. It's an unidentified fungal object, and one called Bitcoiner's Integrity. So these are interesting ones. I think from a humor standpoint, they're an A for me. From aesthetic, maybe a B. It's a lot going on with the pieces. They're not clean, not very symmetric. I don't know if I love a blue, brown, gray colorway, but I digress. It's in terms of symbolism and details, I do think it's pretty cool that you got a motherly face at the top and a little baby in the womb that's perhaps symbolically placed below the divide of the screwdriver or the fork. But I'd love to know what you guys think of these two.
I think this is probably like the funniest Bitcoin shroom.
Yeah, they're pretty hilarious.
It took me ages. I think it was probably a full year until I realized that it's a mother holding its baby in the arms. Like, but previously I thought it was like a dishwasher tab or something. I couldn't
totally. I thought it was a dinner plate. Yeah.
So yeah, aesthetically a bit difficult, but the lore and the humor on this is like outweighs it 1,000 times. I think this is a really, really, really funny Bitcoin shroom. I mean, we're gonna get into the lore in a minute, but yeah, very, very funny. I do like this one a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my opinion, it's funny until you guys just told me what it was. I've never really looked at this one close. To me, it just felt like crap all over the place. Like I thought it was like why is there like a blue fried egg and a smiling like Jesus with a screwdriver through his neck? Like that's until you just told me there was a baby there. I'm like, oh, it's pretty creative what he did. But aesthetically, Rolo, you're probably a lot nicer than me. I don't know what grades below a B, but I'd probably go below that. But it's got a good message. Like, it doesn't matter what I think aesthetically. What do you think, Ski God? Let's get in the lore here.
Brace yourselves.
Yeah. I'll pass.
Wise.
All right. Well,
I think the main reason I passed too is because like I could get on board with like one of them, but like now you can't even stand out. Like there's another one that looks kind of similar, and the fact that you gave it a B, dude, like I don't even know if I can trust your reads anymore.
You just got to get
But-
the set, right? I mean, that's kind of the intention. You have to get the
That's
set.
right. Yeah, I guess you got to get this.
It's the movie reviewers. Who's the fat guy or the skinny guy? One of them is always like, "This is a great movie." Be like, "Dude, you can't like them all."
He's like the Rotten Tomato guy that is like, always going to give at least a 90.
90 plus Marvel ratings.
Sharknado.
Yeah, well, I guess you really can't buy one without the other. You're right. They gotta come as a pair, but that actually maybe did play out. A while back, the Fork Your Mother one sold for 1.75 10 months ago. The other one actually, I think it went literally right after it sold for 1.85. And I remember someone was trying to offer it up to me, and I just didn't personally want it. Someone obviously did though, and they sold. But
remember, the only reason those went for those prices, that was the floor. That's probably where the floor peaked right after the sale and peak FOMO happened. So somebody probably just got in right after, bought, and then was like, "Oh man, what do I get this one?"
Oh, they were willing to depart with their bitcoins, but lore
so
time.
What's the story?
Yeah, it's a hilarious one. So I think we actually have to work backwards with it. We'll go with the fork one first, and the description for that shroom said, "Fork your mother if you want to fork. An echo from men of principle to Jihan's famous words. Prosaically, go and disrupt your progenitor before you try and disrupt Bitcoin with your degenerate fork." Shroomtoshi was also very kind with his words as he gave us the PG version. But there's a direct quote that is available on the internet if you would like to look it up yourself. But for context, the phrase "fork your mother" originated from a heated argument in the Bitcoin scaling wars in 2017. It was famous as a contentious debate on Bitcoin Cash, and it's attributed to the Chinese mining juggernaut, Jihan Wu, who is a major backer of Bitcoin Cash and SegWit 2x, aka he was an unpopular villain. So to say. But he directed the phrase at Bitcoiners and who were opposed to the hard forks, essentially saying, if you want to fork, go fork your mother instead. So I should probably point out, again, that's not what he actually said, but you can find it on the postings there. So anyway, the phrase became a meme to Bitcoin maximalists. It represented resistance against forced changes to the protocol. People sort of latched onto it. And how do we identify with the sibling shroom? That it's a little bit of a mystery, but you could say this version using a screw is potentially a variant of the same message, but maybe a little more unhinged and unfiltered. So we know that Shroomtoshi humorously made an entire second shroom, nacho keys, nacho cheese, just to reemphasize the very same message as the "not your keys, not your coin" shroom. So he's done this before. Again, could be a satirical, unfiltered response to Jihan Wu's words, or might just be a shroom that says, "Screw your mother, dude." So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think we move on.
I think so.
Yeah, still
Those twins to rest.
I like the simple, just fuck your mother and that's it.
So some things are better off easy. So with that said, we've got our second and last shroom here, number 716 Bitcoin forks. We've got a good one. So again, you'll laugh, but it's one of my favorite. It is it's an iconic collection, for its affectionate nod to Super Mario's most beloved villain, the Boo Ghost. And I think it's a beautiful shroom. It's got a clean, ghostly white colored palette, including the face, which I thought was a neat detail. It's number 11 in my top 30 rank list, wherever that is. And I grew up playing Super Mario World with my mom, my sister. We still even play it to this day. So this thing checks all the boxes for me. The nostalgia is real, and What do we think of Boo?
Yeah, this one is an absolute banger. Like, I think this is really one that doesn't just like go into the Bitcoin lore, but it also connects everything together. I mean, the Mario aesthetic shroom vibe, the real Mario world, and of course, the whole Bitcoin theme. So, from an aesthetic point, I think this one is, yeah, I totally agree with you, Roller, and I can really see why you put this one in your top 11. Yeah, absolute grail.
Yeah, this is a sick one. I would love to have that as a PFP. Like, I don't know. There's some colors he chose. Like, this one doesn't even look white. It looks like slightly off white. I don't know. Like some of the light bulb where it's like it's kind of like a neon, but it's not. And like, I don't know. Some of the color palettes are like really unique and stand out. And this is one of those where, this thing's just fire. Everybody kind of like, even if they don't get the lore or whatever, they just think of kind of what it reminds them of, and super sick. Love it.
Yeah, it's a nice little piece. So there's some factoids behind it. ST's description was ghosts of dead altcoins, like the ghosts in Super Mario 64. They also have money inside them, but in their case, it's all stolen. And so many of us probably remember, very well the days of stealing coins back from those creepy big boos that chased you down in Super Mario 64. Times were certainly simpler back then. But with the title being Bitcoin Forks, the Shroom I think is probably a critique of the altcoins that were created by all of these Bitcoin forks over time. You got things like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Gold, et cetera, over the years. And the phrase ghosts of dead altcoins may refer to the failed or dying Bitcoin forks. And, many Bitcoin forks initially claimed to be an improved version of Bitcoin, but they ultimately faded into irrelevance, lost their communities. And so in Super Mario 64, the Boo ghosts contained these blue coins that players could actually collect when the ghost was defeated. And I think the metaphor, might suggest that Bitcoin forks also contain coins with value at the time of their creation, but once you received them, you could just dump them for more real Bitcoin and consequently defeat the dead chain. So that really played out to be true. The last phrase there, but in their case, it's all stolen. It might be a critique of how these Bitcoin forks were cash grabs or scams. And so one great example being Craig Wright. With Bitcoin SV, the chain was embroiled in lawsuits, controversies, questionable claims that further tarnished the whole idea of forking Bitcoin. And there's maybe one last cool metaphor baked in there. If you remember how Boo and Mario would hide whenever you looked at them, Bitcoin forks, they only seemed strong when they were hyped, but they always faded away when examined critically. So I just thought that was a neat artistic twist there. Maybe ST was kind of onto that, but yeah, it's a cool shroom, I think, for all those reasons. But
yeah, it's an aesthetic winner for sure. And
totally.
Bitcoin SV, that fork, after the Bitcoin Cash fork and making some decent money on that one, everyone was excited, like, yeah, keep forking this thing. But the Bitcoin SV and the Bitcoin Gold and a lot of those just were worthless, and you had to like technically get it yourself, like some of the centralized places and like the hardware wallets were like, I'm not even, they didn't even bother. Like, I think Trezor eventually did Bitcoin Gold, but by the time they did, I mean, it was worthless anyway. So, but a lot of these, Bitcoin Cash, I don't think was a cash grab. That was a difference of opinion, but I think a lot of the other ones probably were, for sure.
That's a good point. I remember those times. I think it was Poloniex or one of the other popular centralized exchanges. If you held your Bitcoins, anywhere but an actual hardware wallet, you could get nothing, and they didn't even care. And you really had to put your corns in a place where you could receive the airdrop. So I think I missed almost all of those. But yeah, with that said, we have our last little gem here, which is number 688,
Oh yeah.
Fake Toshi. Yeah, we got a good one. Another one, top favorite, 12 of 30 in my rank list. Super clean, really nice colorway, and I think deploying some unique design elements that we haven't seen in some of the other pieces. So, what do we think of this guy?
I like it. Aesthetic, shroom. The I don't know if I'd get the side stuff, but this one works for sure. I mean, it emotes a very good picture. The black and white stripes, the vertical stripes look cool. Almost gives it like a 3-dimensional like domino hat effect. But yeah, I think this one works. I like it.
Yeah, I like this one a lot as well. This is probably one of my favorite ones to post and to kind of meme whenever I see someone claiming Satoshi, or if I see someone
Yeah,
just saying that they're someone, or they're claiming like something where you clearly know that they're kind of like talking out of their asses. I like to send them this one and call them fake Toshi. So I think this one is really, really good. I'd love to own this one.
what do you think, Ski?
Yeah, I like it. Simple, straightforward. There's a decent amount of black and white shrooms. I feel like Showtimes with the bandana is another one I think of. We just looked at the Boo Toshi one, or whatever it was called, and that's the only like downside. Other than that, I think this like stands out. I think it's a cool story behind it. I would rock it for sure. The whole like off-centeredness thing is a little goofy, like, because if you're gonna rock it as a PFP, I'd want it centered, and then that gets rid of the whole kind of ball and chain thing, and then it kind of loses the story a little bit. But overall, super cool. I really like that one. The clean mushroom head is always going to be a winner in my eyes. So.
Yep.
Always
I think
love that.
maybe interesting to add is something I just remembered from back in the day talking about Shroom Toshi. He always really emphasized to call the Bitcoin Shrooms not a PFP collection, but just like a collection. I don't know what his knack was with being called a PFP collection, but maybe that kind of also not justify, but like reasons why he chose some of the things on the Bitcoin Shrooms, I guess.
I think I could get behind that and see why he might have, felt that way, because as I've said so many times, there are all of these large iterative quote unquote PFP collections that yeah, there may be more about the identity that you assign yourself to, or slapping it on the profile picture. But this was a collection with each one of one piece that really had something deeper behind it, and I don't think he wanted that kind of just shoveled under the rug, and he genuinely believed that this thing stood out as something a little bit different with a story to tell. And that's what I've always told people, that these shrooms tell a story, and most PFPs don't really do that. So I think I could understand it.
Yeah, that's
What do you think's going on with the top left there? Like, why do you think it's not like just straight bars up like the right side? Like, what am I missing there?
It's probably just a perspective shadow thing. That's how I see it. I'll bet he tried the white, or he had to finish. You can't finish white or something, because if you look, the one right above it is the same height, and maybe it just looked weird and gave off zebra vibes, so he had to go black and kind of like maybe almost make the ball and chain like a shadow or something. But I'll bet it was just an aesthetic thing.
Maybe got into a bad prison fight, took a little rock on the head.
Maybe.
But
it does make the number 1 too. I don't know what that would mean, but
there you go. But yeah, really cool one. I think Kenny hit the nail on the head there. As far as the symbolism behind this little guy, the description we received was some are more infamous than others, but really anyone can be fake Toshi. All you have to do is claim to be Satoshi. And, again, probably a playful and maybe disdainful reference to any of the individuals who falsely claim to be Satoshi over all these years. And there have been many of them, trust us, not just Craig Wright. So the message implies that really, again, anybody can claim to be Satoshi, but proving it is an entirely different matter. And fake Toshis, they're notorious for making big headlines, filing lawsuits, attempting to control Bitcoin's narrative, and some really ugly legal battles have even come of that, like the one between Peter McCormack and Craig Wright, or even Hodlnut and Craig Wright. Lucky for us, almost always justice has been served, and in that case, the court deemed Craig Wright a liar and a criminal for making false claims, and guy was forced to publicly acknowledge he was not actually Satoshi. But again, the line mocks how easy it is to claim to be Satoshi, but in the end, all you must do is cryptographically prove that, and none of these folks have really done that.
No,
there's just a few.
And one note on that with Peter McCormack and the Hodlnut, like in the UK, getting sued in the US, you have it can be expensive, but you have more rights, especially with freedom of speech. In the UK, you don't. Yes. So rich guys can sue less wealthy guys, and obviously Peter McCormack became very successful, but it put a huge strain on him, and I believe Hodlnut even got it worse because I think he was the first one sued, but that went on for I think 4, 5, 6 years, and it's just horrible. What he did to them to actually sue them. And, if he can't, all he would have had to do was do what Satoshi did, like just prove with going into that chat room and posting something, or obviously moving something from known Satoshi's wallet, just, 0.0001 Bitcoin, or just make a signature somewhere. But, they couldn't do it. But the fact that it was in the UK made it 100 times worse with the Craig Wright case.
Totally. It's a great point, because it goes underappreciated how long that dragged out for, and how much of a headache, both financially and time-wise, that was for someone like Peter. I know he talked about it on his podcast. Guy's got kids, really headed in a lot of different things, and this was a huge weight sink for him. And just like you said, the guy could have done this at any point, but it just dragged on for so long. But there were a couple of other examples even as well that were relatively high profile. There was a guy named Jörg Molt. He was a German guy who claimed to be one of Bitcoin's co-founders and basically just scammed a bunch of people, ultimately arrested. And then there's a gentleman by the name of James Bilal Khan, who was this Pakistani dude who, I think it was in 2019, he published this like bizarre multi-part blog post saying he was Satoshi, and ultimately, the rest is history. Failed to give any proof, and he was widely dismissed. But anybody can be fake Toshi.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, that's the show, everybody. We do have a giveaway of the. Let me show the hat. There's the awesome, beautiful hat. I haven't looked at retweets yet, but why don't you give me a number here? I'll look at that right now, and then just give me a number between one. Come on, who retweeted it? All right, between 1 and 5.
All righty, let's go 4.
All right, so okay. No, wait, that's the wrong one. Okay, cool. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Marlanif773, the guy who made the comment. And Marlanif, you definitely get it because he just posted hat is tough. So you're still watching, you're still commenting. You are the winner of this hat. Yeah, it is a cool hat. I love the embroidery.
Got a real trooper.
Don't forget, guys, we have a booth led by Rolo at Bitcoin Vegas, so that's going to be super cool. And also in exactly 8 minutes, you've got Kenny and Ski God. Definitely one of my favorite shows that I always tune into. Have the orange pill immediately following this show, starting in literally 8 to 10 minutes. So check out their show. There's always good conversation with those guys and Speed Racer about the market and everything. And obviously today when things are down, people either leave, as we've seen from our lesser numbers this month or this week than the last couple of weeks. People just go into full depression mode, but also those who stick around, we come together and there's a lot to talk about. So I'm excited for it, and everybody check it out.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming out and showing support. And tough times out there, but hang in there. It's always darkest before dawn.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, big thanks also from my side. Thanks to Rollo and also to Blue, of course, for kind of setting this all up and making this a beautiful experience every single time, going through all these Bitcoin shrooms, educating the people. So a big shout out to those guys. And also thank you to everybody who's listening in.
Yeah, this will be a really cool thing to look back on too. When people have questions about specific shrooms, they'll have a complete breakdown of any shroom that they're interested in. Not that they'll be able to afford them, because there'll be a minimum of 10 Bitcoin per shroom. And I get it. Still don't believe it. But you'll see. You'll see. All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Catch you
Until
next time.
week.